Hello everyone, Captain Horn here. Welcome back to another Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 video. I hope you enjoy watching and maybe even learn a thing or two from this video. Before we begin, if you would like to see more Microsoft Flight Simulator content, please consider subscribing to my channel. It takes less than 5 seconds and it would greatly help my channel out. If you are interested in supporting myself and my channel, be sure to check out the different tiers in my Patreon for different rewards. If you are interested in becoming an active member in my community, or would like to find others to fly with in Microsoft Flight Simulator, feel free to join my Discord server. The link to both my Patreon and Discord is in the description. Let's get right into this video. So, by now, I'm sure all of you are aware who have had Microsoft Flight Simulator for the duration that has been out, which is about 2 weeks and 3 days at this point. We have all probably tried the Airbus A320, the default one in the new simulator. Now, I'm not sure if you guys were aware, but somebody has already released a free upgraded version of the Airbus A320, and it adds so much more realism to this aircraft. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to check out the default Airbus A320 first, and then we're going to switch over to the upgraded Airbus A320. And for you X-Plane people, I've heard a lot of people calling this the Zibo A320. Even though it was not created by Zibo, it is still phenomenal and adds a lot more realism to your simulator. So, let's check out the default Airbus. When we get into the captain's chair, we'll notice that the Airbus looks pretty much like a one in real life would look when you first step into the aircraft. You know, it's cold and dark, there's nothing up and running. But we're about to see what happens whenever we provide power to the aircraft. So the first thing we're going to do is come up to our overhead panel here, and we're going to get our batteries on and the fuel pumps, just like that. And if we come back down, we'll notice all of our avionics are already on, and everything is already aligned. Now, usually in the real world, these screens, for one, would take about 30 seconds to do system checks and just get everything up and running, but in the default, everything is already up and running just like this. Now, it's already aligned. Typically, in a real-world Airbus, the captain or co-pilot would have to come up here to what's called the ADIRS system, located right here, and what this does is lets the aircraft know. It's a system that figures out where the aircraft is on Earth. And we'll notice that these knobs are pretty much stuck on nav. You know, we can't turn them. If we hold our mouse over it, says INOP. So that was kind of a bummer for me when I first got into the game, because I really like aligning my IRS in order to allow the aircraft to know where it's at on this planet. Now, another thing that we can notice is the seatbelt signs are also INOP, and they're stuck on, as well as the no smoking signs. Those are also INOP. Another thing that we notice with this Airbus is whenever, if you pay attention to the ND right here, if you switch this knob right here, it switches the ND's display, and it's instantaneous. It does not take much time at all to flip through these screens. That is also not realistic, and in the real Airbus, whenever you switch these knobs, there's a delay as it switches to the next screen. Another major difference in the default Airbus is if we come down here to these buttons, we'll notice that our APU button that typically shows the status of the auxiliary power unit is INOP. We can't click it. Same way with the doors. The door information, it is also INOP. And a lot more of these buttons are INOP, which makes no sense. I'm not sure why Microsoft did not include these into the default, because we need to know the status of the auxiliary power unit. Now, another thing that we notice is when we start the auxiliary power unit, it takes a total of like less than 30 seconds to start up this aircraft, or rather the APU. It is already starting up, and it will become available, this start on will become available in less than 30 seconds. Which is not realistic at all. Again, in the real Airbus, it takes some time for the auxiliary power unit to start and become available, like it just switched right there. and that was definitely less than 30 seconds. And we can turn on our APU bleeds and start up the engines like nothing. Just like that. N2 is already climbing. So the APU starts off very quickly. We don't have any seatbelt signs or smoking signs that we can change. We have no APU status page, and we cannot align our IRS. Now let's go take a look at the new and upgraded Airbus A320 that was developed. I thought it would be worth showing how to get this aircraft and install it. The installation is very simple, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. First, what you want to do is navigate to this GitHub page. The link is in the description. Once you get here, you can read all about it and how to install it, but I'm going to show you how to do that right now. And if you keep scrolling down, there's some FAQs. You can feel free to read all of that. But now, if you want the full version that has all the features currently until it gets updated again, then you do not want to download this master, and you also do not want to click on this released, even though it says latest. It does not come with all the features of this mod. What you want to do is click on this master right here, and then scroll down until you see dev-0.1.1 and click on that. And some things change. It's going to give us more files. Now this is the fully updated version and has the most features. After you click on this dev 1.1, you want to click on the code right here and then simply hit download zip and drag it out to your desktop like I have right here. Alright. And after you download that, we can go back to the master and read some installation. So essentially, if you have it for the Microsoft Store or the Game Pass, you want to copy it to your community folder, and it gives you a general path. This isn't the exact path, but it's pretty general. You just go to app data, local packages, and all that. Now for the Steam edition, it's pretty simple. To locate your community folder, it's pretty much the exact same idea. And for the boxed edition, it's the same idea. Now, the only difference here is if you installed it to a custom folder, like I did. Now, I installed my simulator to a custom folder. So all you have to do is navigate to that custom folder, which is what I'm going to do right now. And it is in my G drive here. We see I created this MSFS 2020 folder, and here's my community folder. Now, if you did not create a custom folder, and if you have it through Microsoft Store or Steam or the boxed version, what you want to do is go to app data, and the way you can navigate to app data is by pressing Windows key and R, and then simply typing %app data and then %, and press enter, and that will bring you to your app data. And then it said something about going into local and all that, but I don't have to do that. If you have the Microsoft Store version, Game Pass, Steam, or the box version, you will need to follow those steps. But I created a custom folder, so that's where I am at, this community folder. All we have to do is navigate into this community folder just like this, and then open what we just downloaded, the A320. And then inside, it's going to have another folder. Just open that. And then inside of that, we're going to have a few folders here. Now, this isn't complicated at all. We don't have to do anything with any of these folders except this one, the A320NX. All you have to do is drag this folder into your community folder. Just like that, and it's going to take a little bit of time. And after that, you are done. You don't have to worry about this .github, the docs src, git ignore, or the readme. After you have dragged this A320NX into your community folder, then you can X out of this and restart your game. Alright, I've now restarted my simulator, and all I'm going to do is go to my world map, scroll into Charlotte, just like the usual, and set this gate as departure. Next, what I'm going to do is select the aircraft, and you're going to notice something in here once you see the Airbus. Now, it looks exactly like the default because nothing has changed. When I first got this, I thought nothing happened because typically in X-Plane or FSX, if you added a new aircraft, the default would also be there. But what this mod does is essentially replace the default Airbus, and I don't know if it really replaces the default, but it just adds to the default, I guess would be a good way of putting it. And nothing changes. You will still have all your liveries if you have any installed. but all the systems and some other things have been changed. So let's go ahead and hit the fly button and compare this new modded Airbus to the default. I've now loaded in the Airbus A320, and the first thing we're going to notice is it is identical from the outside. I mean, nothing has changed on the fuselage or the wings or the engines. Nothing has changed. Everything looks the exact same. Now, it's a different story if we go into the captain's seat. In here, everything looks, again, pretty much the same. You know, it's cold and dark, no screens are on or anything. But watch what happens when I provide the aircraft power. If I turn on the batteries and get the fuel pumps running, nothing happened other than some lights, but we don't have any screens, no avionics, no FMC or MCDU, nothing down here. Now, why would that be? Well, it's because of the realism factor. In a real aircraft, the batteries, they're not going to power all of these screens here or any other function of the Airbus. We need one of two things. We either need the APU power or the external power. And if we look right here, our external power light is lit up with available. So let's click that and see what happened. Well, we hear some noise. It sounds like air conditioning or something. But still, these screens have not popped up yet. Well, why would that be? Because the lighting over here is off. If I twist this light, look at that. That comes on. The PFD right here comes on. The lights down here will light up these screens, just like that. And the same procedure over here. We can turn these lights up and that light up. And now it looks different. We don't have a false horizon. It just says ATT, altitude, speed, heading, vertical speed. Nothing here. Same way with the map. Heading, map not available. Well, this is because we can now align our IRSs. So if we come up here, remember these said INOP before, but now we are able to twist these knobs, and they are set to off. So if we turn these to nav just like that, these buttons up here switch to align, and that's because our IRS is now aligning. Now, typically you would have to come down to the FMC, go to your init page, set up your flight plan, like I will just do KCLT to K ATL or something like that. And typically you would say align IRS, but I guess that is not added quite yet. And right here it says IR alignment in 7 minutes. So we have to wait 7 minutes for the IRS system to figure out where we are on the Earth. And I guess they have not added that feature in the MCDU yet, where you have to manually align the IRS. Alright, what are some other differences? Well, we now have a seatbelt sign and a no smoking sign. And we get a sound whenever we flip these switches. Same way with the no smoking. That's very nice. Well, what else do we have? Down here, we now have access to the door button. We have access to this APU button. And we have access to other buttons, but they are currently black. I assume they will come in a later version. But we now have access to these buttons. And the APU and door are very important in an Airbus. Alright, another difference is starting our APU. So we'll turn the master switch on, and you want to wait for it to say flap open right down here, and that's also taking a lot longer than the default aircraft. There we go. The flap is now open. That took about 15 seconds, and with that flap open, we can now hit the APU starter, and that's going to take a while. Alright, now our APU is fully booted up and we have this available, and I gotta say that took roughly 3 minutes, so about 3.5 times longer than the default, and that matches up pretty well with real life because it does take some while to start this APU. And with that, our start button has become available, which means we can now turn off our external power, and we are getting power from our auxiliary power unit. Now, another difference is, and I didn't even mention in the default, is this air condition right here. We have access to turn this to hot or cold on our cockpit, our forward cabin, and the aft cabin. That is something that is unavailable in the default. All the knobs are pointed straight up, just like this, and they say in-op. So that is a nice little feature there. Alright, and that is pretty much all of the differences there. Now with the APU, we can turn on the bleed and start our engines. And as far as I know, the engine starting is no different. Our N2 is already climbing just like that. But yes, that is the what people are calling the Zibo Airbus A320. As you can tell, comparing it to the default, it is a lot more realistic, and there's a lot more procedures that you have to do. And I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. Okay, yes. Look, this adds a massive checklist for the Airbus. Typically in the default, we only had before engine start, and after engine start. Now we have all of these checklists. So this is a very nice mod so far. I have not seen any bugs from it thus far. I can't wait to see what they do with this aircraft and how they improve it to be study level, which for those of you that don't know what that means, it's pretty much identical to a real world Airbus A320. Alright guys, so that's going to do it for today's video. If you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. Be on the lookout for more Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 live streams. There will definitely be a lot more with this brand new Airbus A320 mod. And be on the lookout for some more tutorials. I'm planning on making a lot more tutorials for this brand new simulator. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you on the next video.